Hello, and welcome back to Summoner Wars 2nd Edition. My name is Ryan Shibata, aka Shibata, and today we're going to take a look at the most important match in Summoner Wars League Season 4 history. It's the tiebreaker match to determine the championship of Division 1, Massimo versus snalg. Both of these guys won 4 games and lost 2, and they went 1-1 against each other. So this match is going to determine the entire title. We take a look at the player ranking to determine who we're talking about. snalg is the current champion with 35 league points, 3rd all time. And again, he won Season 3 as the man on top. Massimo is a super helpful guy who actually runs the website that this is all on, and isn't too shabby of a player himself, with 31 points all time. Good for 8th ever. While these numbers aren't necessarily the most accurate for present day, because they take historical results more strongly, they're a good barometer for who's been impactful in the competitive Summoner Wars community since the beginning. And so we can see that both of these players are mainstays of Summoner Wars. These are not fresh faces, these are seasoned veterans. Now let's take a look at, the way this worked actually is they got to choose one faction for this tiebreaker match in a blind pick. Here's the faction ranking for how well each faction has done over time in the Summoner Wars League. You can see Polar Dwarves did really well, but they were banned mutually by both players. So you could choose anybody from the Phoenix Elves all the way down to the Vanguards. Now I'll give you a moment to choose who you would have picked if you were to be in this situation. Personally, I would pick the Phoenix Elves. I think they're the strongest deck statistically. I think they have positive matchups against everybody else here. I think that they're also just really reliable and trustworthy, and you can adapt to your opponent well. The common consensus among the Discord, as far as I can tell, is that the Savannah Elves are the strongest faction. But any of these picks are reasonable, except for the Vanguards, who are absolutely dwarfed by everybody else in overall win rate. The Tundra Orcs, by the way, is a little bit misleading because they got buffed with the double Primal Fury ruling, which people didn't know about until recently. So they should be able to perform a little bit better than this 41.6% because they now have access to a really explosive option that they didn't before. The Vanguards have received no such buff and sit dead last at 32.4%. Now, Massimo made a choice, an unorthodox one, but one that makes sense, choosing the Breakers. While these are not the strongest decks statistically, they do extremely well in the hands of those who are skilled with them, as we can see with their really strong performance in the Gen Con tournament. And Massimo is a Breakers mainstay, and I've learned that having been on the receiving end of his matches multiple times. snalg, shockingly, chose the Vanguards. And that's the matchup we have here. snalg's Vanguards versus Massimo's Breakers. People asked after this match why snalg chose the Vanguards, and he said it was because Massimo had beat him with the Polar Dwarves previously, or beat him while Massimo was playing the Vanguards. Basically, snalg's logic was, I don't deserve to call myself champion if I can't win with this deck. So I'm going to prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that I have what it takes. And that's really honorable, fitting the Vanguard's kind of theme of honor and gallantry. Without any further ado, let's get into the match. snalg's Vanguards against Massimo's Breakers. Now, snalg got to go first here, and chose to summon this Archer, as well as a Holy Judgment. I think a very strong start. Getting a lot of damage in with these discards. Are they going to discard the Knight as well? They are. And so snalg is going to have the ability to roll 4 dice on this 2 health Mind Witch, and it pays off with 3 damage. The Knight's going to do a traditional attack against the Deceiver. 3 hits, turns into 2 because of Stupefy. Now, Massimo counterattacks with Wind Mages and a Mind Witch, and let's see that roll hit 1. Let's see what the Mind Witch chose to copy. Was it the Archer or the Knight? It was summoned here, so it's got to be the Knight. It was the Wind Mage. They chose to copy the Wind Mage, presumably to allow all 3 of these attacks to take place. So the Mind Witch is now going to roll. No! The Wind Mage is going to use... Let me back that up a bit. So after the Wind Mage attacked here, you can see this attack that I had skipped. Only 1 damage, but it uses its push ability to get the Knight into position, trying to take down that Knight. Pushes the Knight once more to finish it off with Takulu. And a terrible miss there, 0 for 3. Perplexing Tempest helps mitigate the damage, not allowing the priest to get in on the action. Vanguards play surprisingly conservatively here, placing down a gate and hunkering down while doing damage as they can with the Knight and the Archer. Maybe they're trying to preserve their Holy Judgment. Maybe, although that's unlikely since that Knight's a dead man. In fact, he's just going to get taken out for the cost of 1 magic and a card with Blast here, presumably to free up the movement for the Mind Witch. And yes, the Mind Witch takes that spot and occupies it. 3 damage to the Archer, and the Wind Mage is going to try to finish it off. 1 damage, a push, and then Mind Witch. That is what's going to happen. And I expect this barely, but it does get the kill. And pushes the Deceiver just to protect itself. Again, Sarah playing a hunkering down strategy, which I don't necessarily agree with, although there's a reason I'm not in Division 1 right now. Guarding Spirits. Oh, I see what the logic was. The hunker down strategy was to try to... So the turn was like this. That Guarding Spirits makes it so that the only things that can reasonably be attacked are this 10 health gate, which, you know, has 10 health. You're not too worried about it in the short-term tactics, and it frees up attacks from the other summoning spots. And this Paladin, who is 1, not in very good range, and 2, is helping protect the 5 health gate. Although this Paladin has slightly less health, I think the gate's a little bit more valuable to protect here because of the summoning spots it occupies. Sarah hunkering down, looking to poke out and get some pot shots to activate the Citadel's Might in this narrow strategy. So I was initially criticizing it, but I think this is a strong strategy from snalg, trying to win the economic game against Takulu and trying to stay out of Takulu's like death zone with mind capture and mind control. Basically playing the long game. Let's see how Massimo responds. An Archer, and that Mind Witch is going to mimic the Archer. We move all the way down. The Deceiver attacks, does 1 damage. And a Long Bomb doesn't quite make it. 2 out of 3, the Paladin is going to counterattack. And here, I remember this turn while I watched this game as it unfolded. Sarah takes out her own Paladin to deny magic and keeps herself locked at the back rank. Again, playing a very defensive magic denial style. Takulu is saying 2 can play that game and uses some Wind Mage and Archer shenanigans to just start raining down bombs on the exposed gates. Sarah counterattacking with a single cheap priest and finishing off her own walls, taking away summoning spots to deny that magic from Takulu. Very confident in her economic game here, but I'm not sure if it's working. If we pause here, that's going to be the end of their turn. And this is a sort of stat that I like to use that I thought of, which is overall economy in terms of draw pile, magic, cards in hand, and cards on the table. So if we were to do at this point, because on the board it looks real bad for Sarah. You got Takulu and 3 commons against just the lone summoner. But how, obviously Sarah's not trying to win this game on the board. She's trying, and snalg's trying through her, to win this game in the magic pile, in the draw pile, trying to outlast Takulu and then take advantage of the Citadel's Might combined with her superior economy to wear down Takulu through attrition. snalg knows that Takulu's ability, as impressive as it is not a good economic tool. And so, because every mind capture that happens is a 2 magic swing. 1 magic that you don't get from killing the opposing unit, and then 1 magic that your opponent gets from killing the unit that you just turned into your own. So I'm trying to think of a snappy name. We'll call it the sum rocks, because these are summoning sums, or the sum stone. The sum stone value for Sarah here is a simple 0. The summoner doesn't have any summoning costs. The gate doesn't either. Plus 9 for the magic pile, plus 12 for the draw pile, plus 5 for the cards in hand. So that's 9 plus 12, that's 21, plus 5, that's 26. So Sarah's looking at about 26 sum stone. How about the benders? We got 3 magic, 4 cards in hand, 15 draw pile. That is 15 plus 7, that's 22. So Sarah's winning on that regard, but then you add in the commons that are on this field. Plus 1 magic for the Deceiver, plus 2 magic for the Wind Archer, plus 1 magic for the Wind Mage, and that brings it to 26 to 26. Arguably, it's even more in advantage of Takulu, because someone like a 0-coster would take away 1 magic from this to play, because it's 0 cost on the board, but 1 magic in hand. But it's still oftentimes good to use a 0-coster. So if you're going to add 1 magic for every card on the board, which I think is reasonable, it becomes 28 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 31. Takulu with a 3 magic advantage. This is all a very long-winded way of saying that even though Sarah has this whooping 9 magic, I don't think it's looking very good for her here, because she's exhausted her resources and Takulu hasn't. Sarah's going to make use of the 9 magic here by playing Renewed Hope and summoning a gate. A simple attack to keep that card machine going, and a summoning of Colleen to try to finish off that Deceiver. It's not going to work though, because the Deceivers and Wind Mages are now out in full force to counterattack the offense that snalg and Sarah have generated. 2 damage on Colleen. Her Divine Shield will activate and protect. Oh, it doesn't even matter, but would have protected the Knight there. But the Wind Mage gets a push to try to finish off Colleen and stop that Divine Shield. Sarah summons a single priest. Is she going to use that to heal Colleen? The Knight attacks the Wind Mage. She might discard that 1 card that we don't see. And she does. She gets 2 heals on Colleen. A blast. Is this going to activate on the Knight? It is. He's going to injure his own. Massimo is going to injure his own Wind Mage there in order to get that play to work. Very interesting. I wonder if there's a way for him to avoid that. Doesn't seem too worried about it though, because the point of doing that was to try to get Colleen in range of Takulu's attack value. I think Massimo made a mistake there. Yeah, what was the first attack here? So here is the position before the Perplexing Tempest. You still have 3 movements, right? Yeah, there's this missile. I think. Okay, so that was the position. All 3 movements are here. Okay, now all 3. Okay, now all 3 movements are here. So what they did was they moved the Wind Mage, they moved Takulu, and they moved the Deceiver. The point here is to maximize the 3 attacks. So if you're doing this shenanigan to try to get all your hits on Colleen, I would think that would be with the Archer, Takulu, and the Wind Mage. There's the blast. And there's the Archer attack. So yeah, an interesting move by Massimo there as I broke it down. injuring her own Wind Mage to get that knight out of the way to maximize the dice that could be put on Colleen. Didn't get the kill, but Perplexing Tempest prevents a counterattack from Colleen. The priest is going to heal Colleen, one of the strongest champions, arguably in the entire game. It makes sense that this is a focal point of both sides' attack. But not too much drama from that. Colleen's going to just kind of stay put, and everybody's going to try to attack her. I feel like the weakest part of snalg's position here is that while Colleen is getting healed, and there she goes, while Colleen was getting healed, she was also out in the open, and so she was subject to a lot of attacks. While snalg tried to minimize that with the use of the priest, which is not a economically incentivized position to use, by the way. You want to use the priest to attack because it costs a card every time it wants to heal. You can read that here. Despite that, Colleen was still able to get taken down because these Wind Mages were able to push Colleen as well as attacking into the path of extremely damaging units like the Wind Archer with a 4 range attack and Far Shot to keep it protected. snalg has also been unable to exert enough offensive pressure to threaten these powerful long-range units, meaning that Cthulhu essentially just has an artillery barrage that they can use whenever they'd like. And if we look at the sum stone value at this point, I'm very proud of myself for thinking of that, we see that it's not too good for Sarah. 4 magic, 4 cards in the draw pile, 5 cards in hand. That is 13 in total. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 for cards on the field, and then 2 magic for the price of the Citadel Knight. 21, arguably less since this knight's about to die, but arguably more because it's about to be their turn. In contrast, Cthulhu has 5, 5, 4, so that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, total 21, 22, 24, 23, the mine which is only worth 1. So that's a 2 magic advantage. With all these shenanigans, plus Colleen's down, so that's not looking too good. With all these advantages, Sarah has still not been able to play the economic game that she wants to because these archers and these Wind Mages have been so threatening. And this isn't me saying that snalg has made a terrible mistake. I don't think that there was much he could have done, but that is the threat of playing Vanguards in a championship match. While it's incredibly honorable and I have a lot of respect for him for wanting to earn the championship in that way, it's not going to lead to statistically the most likely wins. And I think he knew that when he chose it. All right, let's see how Sarah responds. Knight and Priest. 3 movements just to advance on that rightward flank. 2 damage on the Wind Mage, gonna finish him off with this Knight. Does finish him off. And I'm assuming, yep, an attack on the Deceiver. Getting some, ooh, that's unlucky. So at this point, snalg has come to the same conclusion that I have, which is that he's not going to win this game by continuing to play defensive. He needs to get out there, deal some damage to the archers, deal some damage to the Mind Witches, and threaten Cthulhu right outside her zone to force some death and destruction on. There goes the archer, and there goes the Citadel Knight into Sarah Eldwin's hand. I'd say that even though Sarah's greatly exposed here, I think this is the best she's looked all game since the beginning, because she's starting to put some pressure on Cthulhu and forcing some moves. Of course, here comes the inevitable counterattack. Very interesting, using the knight to kill off her own knight through engaged damage, because she knew that mind control is temporary. And now using the Wind Mages and the Mind Witches to deal some damage. And another one Another knight gets taken down through Stupefy here. Very interesting use of, sorry, not Stupefy, through Engage. Very interesting use of Engage to treat these commons like a cheese grater. Sarah counterattacks with a Paladin and a Knight, advancing on Massimo. And again, I like this play. I think you got to put pressure on Takulu here. 2 damage. And gets a Knight out with Renewed Hope, helping protect her. She will take some damage from that Mind Witch, but hopefully not too much. Wind Mage attacks. We see the Mind Witch move to attack someone other than Sarah. I think threatened by the Knight that's bearing down on Takulu as a summoner. And that's correct. She's trying to preserve her own summoner's HP. Takulu's HP Massimo is. And goes for the mind capture on that Knight. No, it just doesn't get the kill on the Knight. But the Knight is not going to attack Takulu. The Knight is standing tall and preserving those summoning spots to minimize the counterattack that is possible. Again, playing the economic game. Very committed to that idea, despite this aggressive move. And I think this is where it all goes south. Gul'dan gets the kill on the Knight and uses Telepathic Command to get an extra attack out of this 4-attack archer. Rolls lucky, 4 hits. Rolls lucky again, 4 hits, and that's 8 damage on Sarah. Amazing. Now Sarah's on 2 health and she can no longer play aggressively as she is 1 attack away from death. She has to play extremely defensively here, using the Knights to preserve summoning spot, to preserve her own health due to Engage, hiding behind her opponent's wall, trying to do some damage. Does do some damage to Gul'dan, but with Gul'dan there, with the ability for Gul'dan to, yeah, and there it is. Interesting. Oh, yep. And Gul'dan uses, and Massimo uses that Wind Mage movement. I was wondering the positioning to get the Engage out of the way, and gets a kill with Telepathic Command. Oh, an extremely effective game. Let's take a look at that last turn a little bit. So this was the positioning before attacks. When you first look at this, you think it's a real bad move. Why didn't you keep the archer here? Why did you prevent, why would you put this archer in a way where it can't actually attack Sarah because of the Knight? But this Wind Mage attacking the Knight is guaranteed to be able to push the Knight out of the way. And that force is going to allow Gul'dan to get the attack and have the archer put down 8 dice on Sarah. From there was really nothing, there was nothing snalg could do. I think this is what happens when you have an unfavorable matchup played against a champion. Massimo is an expert of the breakers. I've talked about this a lot at this point, mostly. And snalg just couldn't make it happen with the economic gameplay. Let's take a look at the game log, and this is also very interesting. By far the stat that jumps out to me here is dice rolled. The Vanguards rolled 72 dice in their attacks, 31 attacks. The breakers, 108. That is over 30 more dice rolled. And I learned actually from Massimo after he it was either Massimo or Water D, but one of them commented on a video I made earlier talking about this game log, which is available at summonerwarzone.com. And I had asked whether effects like Purge or Blood Summon or other like event card type things counted into these calculations. They do not. These are only direct attacks. And so this 108 attack here, dice rolled, versus the 72, means that the breakers were able to attack with 36 more dice than the Vanguards were. That makes such a huge difference. See, again, with the attacks, more attacks and more dice rolled per attack, 2.3 compared to 2.3. Even though the Vanguards got luckier with their attacks at 76.4% to 71.3%, although some of that can be attributed to the fact that the Vanguards have some melee units and the Breakers do not, other than Golden. Is that the only melee unit they have? Yeah, it's just Golden. Other than that, the dice rolled, I think, tell a story themselves. Looking at the way of cards were played, you see 6 Citadel Knight summons, which is, I think, perfect. I think you have to play every Citadel Knight. You played more than every Citadel Knight. Not only did the Vanguards get to play every Citadel Knight in their deck, the 4 that they are able to draw, they also used Renewed Hope to get 2 of those back and then play them again. And that's not counting the 1 Citadel Knight that starts in the Vanguard's starting setup. And then you see just like a couple other common units and Colleen, who did a lot of work this game. Felt like LeBron James facing the Warriors in 2017 a little bit here. On the Breaker side, you see every Wind Mage used, every Mind Witch, 3 Mind Witches used, 3 Winter's Archers used, and 2 Deceivers. A healthy mix of all 4 common units. You compare that to the Vanguards, and it's all Knights, and only 1 Archer, and only 2 of these guys. And the champion that was summoned was, of course, Gul'dan. I think that this is one of the strongest champions in the game. I've been convinced that Miti Kiryu, the lion for the Savannah Elves, is a stronger unit, but Gul'dan has my vote as the most impactful. Telepathic Command is just so impressive every time it comes out. Events, we see Holy Judgment, Guarding Spirits, and Renewed Hope all used. No Mass Heal, again, understandable. That card is very overpriced. And over here we see more event cards than I'm used to for the Breakers. Both Perplexing Tempests, both Blasts, Mind Control, and Hypnotic Call. Now, I think Massimo was out of cards by the end of the game. Yes, out of cards at the end of the game. So all cards that were not played were discarded. You can see that 8 cards, 11 cards to Magic. All right. So if you're a player and you're looking at this match and you're wondering, what are the takeaways that I should learn from this? What's the lessons to improve myself as a Summoner Wars player? I would say that there's 2 things. The first is that Wind Mage shenanigans have a lot of power to unlock the potential of all your other units. And the second is, if your priority is to win, do not pick Vanguards in a championship match. Thank you for your time. Have an awesome day.